Today is August 8th? Okay. Thank you for being patient with tech. Okay, so today is August 8th, 2025 in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina, and this is the appearance day of Lord Balaram. What would we do without your utsaha here? I don't know. The whole time. I think he just takes Harinam. Okay. So Vahasi Vapushi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. So this means Jaladabam. What's holding the water? This is the clouds. Vasana is the clothes. Vahasi Vapusi Vishade. On your very white body, you are wearing clothes the color of a rain cloud. Vahasi Vapushi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. Vahasi Vapusi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. Vahasi Vapusi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. Alahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Biti means fear. Hala is the plow. So, by the striking of your plow, you cause fear in the Jamuna, who therefore came to you. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. All glories to the Lord of the universe, who is the holder of the plow. Vahasi Vapusi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Vahasi Vapushi Vishade Vasanam Jaladabam. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Halahati Biti Milita Yamunabam. Keshavadvita Haladarupa. Keshavadvita Haladarupa. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jaya Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astacharya Satyashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai, Mathura Dhama Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai, Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nivasesu Sanyavadi Paskatya Deshatarne. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpachubhyascha Kripasindhavyevacha Ptitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Can someone move? Tulsi Devi should never be there because the AC will blow on her. It's snowing? You're not going to turn it. Okay. Okay, so I've shown this before, but I added a few slides and I added some music this time. And I adjusted some slides around from Maharaj's comments last time I showed it. So this is about who is Balaram, his pastimes in Vrindavan, his pastimes in Mathura, and his pastimes in Dwarka. So who is Balaram?
Om Namo Vasudevaya.
So he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations, but Lord Balaram is his second body. Krishna is the primeval Lord, and his first expansion is Balaram. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. Anantarupam can mean that his form is unlimited, but it can also mean that he has unlimited forms. So often people outside of the Vedic system misunderstand that this means we're worshiping many gods. But actually God can have unlimited forms. Even in our present conditioned life, we change our form somewhat according to our mood and circumstance, isn't it? How we dress, maybe how we do our hair, or, we may look remarkably different according to what our activities and mood are. What to speak of God, who can actually have so many different forms. Of course, even the liberated jivas can have many different forms, as nicely explained in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. But what to speak of the Lord who can have unlimited forms. So actually, Krishna and Balaram are the same identity. They only differ in form. Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, who assists in his pastimes. He's a Swamsa expansion. So there's no difference in the potency, right? We are the Vibhinansa expansions, and therefore we have a lot of difference in our potency with that of the Lord. He's the chief among the first quadruple forms. He's Krishna's foremost existence. And the Lord of Swetadweep expands himself as Sesha Nag. Now, this concept is very difficult for our preaching in Africa. So with our Ishopanishad in Africa, we had to change the cover because the Africans wouldn't buy anything with a snake on the cover. And so the concept that the Lord also appears in this form as a divine serpent, of course the Lord has a form in every species of life, but he holds all the planets on his hoods as insignificant. You all know how big a mustard seed is? Really tiny, little. So if you had a little mustard seed on your head, you probably wouldn't even notice it was there. So just like that, Bhubrit, one who holds all the planets on his head. When I got second initiation, one of the devotees getting first initiation, the other devotees had picked out the names and they said something, I don't remember what they said. And Prabhupada said, "What is that name?" And they repeated it. And Prabhupada said, "What is that name?" They repeated it. And Prabhupada says, no, it should be Bhubrit, one who carries the planet He said, what you have given means one who carries around heavy loads. Prabhupada talks about in CC Adi 5119 that the word sankarshana actually has an etymological relationship to the law of gravity, this law of attraction. Actually, one of our godbrothers wrote an essay about how little the scientists understand about gravity. It was very fascinating that actually the reason the planets are staying in their orbits and are attracted is because of Sesha, who is Lord Balaram. And he's the original shelter of the Purusha, from whom the world is created and in whom it's dissolved. And this Sankarshana, whose transcendental pure goodness is a partial incarnation of Nityananda Balaram. Balaram presents Krishna, therefore he is the original guru. Prabhupada mentioned this in a lecture in Mayapur in 1975. He says, any bona fide guru must be a representative of Balaram or Nityananda. Actually, Srila Prabhupada would say the guru is not exactly a particular person, but guru is a principle. Guru is the truth. And any jiva who's representing that truth, he is guru. Actually, when we are worshiping Guru, we are worshiping the ultimate Guru, Lord Balaram. And he assumes Krishna in all different forms. Does anyone know some of the forms in which Lord Balaram serves Krishna? His Singhasana, yes. What else? His bed. His umbrella. His Brahmin thread. Yes. Anything else? Huh? The pots in the kitchen. Huh. All right. His slippers. The dham. Yes. His residence. His clothes. Yes. These are all Balaram. Those of you who are dealing with the deity's clothes, right? You're making the clothes, you're manifesting Lord Balaram. You're dressing the deities in their clothes. These clothes are Lord Balaram. The shoes you put in front of the Lord are Lord Balaram. By the way, I'd like to just take a brief detour and thank Krishna Priya for donating her original hand-painted art, which is now up in Prabhupada Hall. Krishna Priya ki! So we want to look at Balaram's appearance. So Balaram's appearance is very unusual. It says in Bhagavatam 10.2.5 that the child of Devaki was attracted and transferred to the womb of Rohini by Yogamaya. So that Balaram is the child of both Devaki and Rohini. And originally he appears in Devaki's womb, and then he gets transferred to Rohini's womb. So that Kamsa thought simply that Devaki had had a miscarriage. And this is also particularly significant because Guru prepares us to receive Krishna. So after the killing of the 6 sons of Kamsa, who represent like lust, anger, greed, etc., then Guru appears within the body of Devaki to purify it and provide the proper place for Lord. So Balaram has many pastimes in Vrindavan. We have, of course, Gargamuni, who gives the name to Krishna and Balaram in 10.8.12. He says, this child, the son of Rohini, will give all happiness to his relatives and friends by his transcendental qualities. Therefore, he will be known as, what's the name that has to do with pleasure? Rama. And because he will manifest extraordinary strength, he'll be known as Bala. Moreover, because he unites 2 families, Vasudev's family and Nandamaj, he'll be known as Sankarshana. So in the purport to 138, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Balaram exhibits the beauty of the Supreme Lord.
You open my eyes to your wonders new. You capture my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you.
That's a Christian song written for God, by the way. It's not a love song. So in 10.8.52, it states that Krishna, along with Balaram, increased the transcendental pleasure of Nanda Maharaj and the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Prabhupada often talks about how mostly the religions of the world worship God as the Father. But generally, our relationship with our parents is taking from our parents, correct? We generally think, oh, my parents, they're going to give me food, they're going to give me money, they're going to give me shelter, they're going to give me this, they're going to give me that. But Prabhupada talks about how our Vaishnava concept is that I can become the father of God. Not that I become Nanda Maharaj, but I can become in that mood of the Father of the Lord, which is this manifestation, I'm going to serve my child. So Nanda Maharaj raised, in the absence of Vasudeva, in love for his friend Vasudeva, Nanda Maharaj raised Balaram like his own son. And in Bhagavatam 10.11.14, it's explained that the boys like to play. They wouldn't want to come home. Right? Mother Rohini would call them, and then Mother Yasoda would call them, you need to come home, you need to come home. And that Mother Yasoda was having milk flowing from her breasts, calling Krishna and Balaram back to take their meals. Mm-hmm. And Nanda Maharaj regularly took his meals with his two sons, Krishna and Balaram. And so Mother Yasoda would say, now boys, you go back to your homes, you get changed, you get Krishna and Balaram, they have to come eat with Nanda Maharaj. Of course, it's very nicely explained that when Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys are eating in the morning, they don't eat with Nanda Maharaj, they're just eating with their friends, and so they're really goofing around. But when they're eating with Nanda Maharaj, they're a little bit more formal and a little bit more well-behaved. So Krishna and Balaram, they also exhibit different moods according to the devotees that they are with. And sometimes Krishna and Balaram would catch hold of the tail of the calves, and the calves would pull them through the muddy clay and the cow dung, and all of the motherly gopis, they would enjoy this by laughing. So, of course, in this world, we enjoy the funny activities of the children, and we may feel such great love and affection for our children or children in general. But if we can imagine the love we feel for a child who's just a little part of Krishna, just a little, okay, how much love could we feel for watching Krishna and Balaram being dragged around the clay of Vrindavan by the calves? And one time, Lord Balaram and the other boys went to Mother Yasoda and lied about Krishna. And they said, Mother Yasoda, Krishna has eaten dirt. Krishna says to his mother, these boys are telling lies about me. Even my brother Balaram is telling lies about me just to get me in trouble. He says, all my friends complaining about me are liars. This is in 10.8.34 to 35. And Krishna says, if you think that actually they are truthful, you can look in my mouth. And what happened when Mother Yasoda looked in his mouth? Did she see dirt? She saw a lot of dirt. She saw the whole earth. She saw the whole universe. And Krishna and Balaram would join together and steal the milk and yogurt. And the gopis would complain to Mother Yasoda and say, even when we keep the milk and yogurt very high up on a swing, when Krishna and Balaram cannot reach it, they arrange to reach it by piling up various planks and turning upside down the mortar for grinding spices. Being quite aware of the contents of the pot, they pick holes in it. When the older gopis were doing their various work, Krishna and Balaram enter into a dark room, brightening the place with all their ornaments, taking advantage of this light by stealing. So we can question, why does God steal? Of course, he's stealing as a little child. Stealing by little children is not criminal or offensive. But this nature, that we have in ourselves, is also there in the Lord. Of course, when when Balaram is stealing the butter with Krishna, the gopis are simply enjoying this. And every morning, keeping their calves before them, they go into the Vrindavan forest. And we know that Krishna and Balaram were taking care of the calves before they were 6, right? Like 4 or 5 years old, they're already taking care of the calves. In modern society, we often don't give young people responsibility until they're in their 20s. But for thousands and millions of years, children in this world have taken some responsibility to help the family and help the community from a young age. Unfortunately, in the Industrial Revolution, children became severely exploited in unhealthy environments. And so we stopped having, unfortunately, by stopping having children work in factories, we created a society where children aren't taking responsibility at all. And we see in our Hare Krishna movement that the children who take responsibility for the mission from a young age end up feeling themselves genuinely appreciated as a part of the Hare Krishna movement. It's one of the glories of New Goloka that we have always engaged the children and the teenagers in various services, often treating them with the same respect and responsibility we do adults. And it's one of the main reasons that so many of our young people have continued to be active in the movement. Now, sometimes Balaram would feel sleepy and lie down under a tree to rest. Then Krishna would massage his feet to help him feel rested. So, of course, the Lord doesn't rest and sleep like we do, that we have to restore our bodily functions, but simply for pleasure. So here Krishna is taking the role of the younger brother who's massaging the feet of the older brother. And the cowherd boys who have this sense of equality with the Lord, they're just lying down next to the Lord, right, without any awe and reverence. And they would like to herd their animals in the forest by the bank of the Yamuna. And often they were dancing. While the other boys were dancing, O king, Krishna and Balaram would sometimes accompany them with song and musical instruments. And sometimes the two lords would praise the boys dancing, saying, "Very good, very, very good. Sadhu, sadhu." So Krishna, the Supreme, we have kind of a mentality in our modern age that dancing is for girls, but the Supreme Purusha is a very expert dancer. And Krishna and Balaram and his cowherd boys were very, very expert in dancing through the Vrindavan forest, calling everyone together with their buffalo horns to play. And the boys, Krishna and Balaram, would sit down with the boys and eat all the different preparations they had brought from home. Tasting one another's preparations, they would begin to laugh. Sometimes one friend would say, "Krishna, see how my food is relishable." And Krishna would take some and laugh. Similarly, Balaram, Sudama, and other friends would taste one another's food and laugh. In this way, they very jubilantly began to eat the food they had brought from home. Of course, sometimes the cowherd boys would play tricks on Krishna. They would steal his samosas and take out all the vegetables and put jasmine flowers inside. Don't try that at home. Now, we know that Lord Brahma stole the cowherd boys and the calves, right? Balaram wasn't there that day. Balaram was home for his birthday. And when Krishna was eating with the boys and the calves wandered away. And when the boys went to look for the calves, Lord Brahma took advantage of the situation to steal the boys and the calves. Then Krishna expanded himself as all the boys and calves. And it's explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that one reason he did that was so Balaram wouldn't feel separation from the boys and the calves, but also because the cows and the parental gopis and gopas, they all had some desire to have Krishna as their child. So this way, they got to do so. And these expansions weren't exactly the same as the original because they had a different rasa with their parents than the cowherd boys or the calves did. And such was evident just a few days before Lord Brahma came back, when the cowherd men were on top of Govardhan Hill with the cows, and the calves were at the bottom. Now, since those calves had been born, other calves had been born, and often among animals, not all animals, elephants aren't like this, but often among animals, once they have a new child, they slacken their relationship with the older children. But these cows were so much wanting to see these calves, who were actually Krishna, that they ran down Govardhan Hill. So who here has been to Govardhan Hill? Who's been to Govardhan? Govardhan Hill's very what? Rocky and big rocks. Do you think you could run down Govardhan Hill? That would be very difficult, unless you're a monkey or a goat. But the cows were running down Govardhan Hill. It said they had joined front and rear legs, and they were running. And how did the cowherd men feel when the cows were running down Govardhan Hill? They felt very ashamed. What else? Frustrated, angry. So these are pure devotees of the Lord. Generally, they're successful in their service. But in this case, they were a failure. They were not able to keep the cows from running down Govardhan Hill. Sometimes in our service, externally, we appear to be a failure. Yes? Sometimes we really try to do some service for Krishna. We put a lot of time, energy, maybe money, maybe we engage other people, and it doesn't work. Yes? So this happens even to the cowherd men in Vrindavan. Of course, this failure of the cowherd men was to glorify the cows and their deep attachment to Krishna, that the cows loved Krishna so much that they're willing to run down rocky Govardhan Hill even though the men are yelling at them and probably waving sticks at them, just to see Krishna. My dear friends, if we don't have this much attachment to Krishna, we're not going to go there. Yam yam vapi smram bhavam, whatever we think about. If our attachment to Krishna is casual, we're going to have some deep attachment to something else or somebody else. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami says the price for attaining Krishna Bhakti is loyam, greediness, intense greediness, that one is willing to just run to Krishna. And the Bhagavatam says, even if you run with eyes closed, you will not slip or fall. That doesn't mean physically that you should run up the temple room stairs and think I won't fall down the stairs. That's not what I mean. This is speaking metaphorically, that one should be eager to run to Krishna without concern that, oh, what will happen? What will happen if I run to Krishna? So Balaram, seeing this, seeing these cows running to their calves, even though they had newer calves, and then seeing the men when they came down the hill, forgetting all their anger and frustration and smelling the heads of their children and crying in happiness, Balaram's like, what's going on? What's this mystic power? Is it a demigod? Is it a demoness? This is from Bhagavatam 10, 13, 35 to 37. He says, it must be Krishna's illusory energy. And this particular interchange where Krishna had engineered all this, and Krishna himself, in his expansion as Balaram, didn't know what was going on. So how amazing is this? Imagine if you could throw a surprise party for yourself. So that's what Krishna is able to do this. In one is Krishna. He's very aware of this expansion. As Balaram, he's not. Right? And so Balaram has this astonishment. Krishna speaks so wonderfully to Balaram. This is from 10:15:6, where he's going and glorifying Balaram in so many ways. And he talks about the bees. Krishna says to Balaram, "O original personality, these bees must all be great sages and elevated devotees, for they are worshiping you by following along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Although you have disguised yourself within this forest, they refuse to abandon you." So it's explained that the bees are with Balaram even in his most intimate pastimes. We know in the Bhagavatam it's explained that the very beautiful, sweetly singing birds, the Bhagavatam says the birds are evidence of Krishna's what? Artistry. They will stop singing to listen to the bees. We don't think of the bees humming. Like people will listen to recordings of birds. I don't think anyone listens to recordings of bees. But in the spiritual world, the birds are worshiping the bees for their exalted devotion, and then they're humming. They're always reciting the glories of the Lord. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Dhenukasura represents Tamagun. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, although the other anarthas represented by the other demons are Nista, Ridyantasta Abhadreshu, Vidyanoti Saritsita, that Krishna is cleansing our heart of the impurities, that for Tamagun and Rajagun, we have to get rid of these ourselves with the help of Guru, as represented by Balaram. This Tamagun kicks Balaram in the chest. Yes, in the mode of ignorance, we are very disrespectful to the Lord. And Pralamba represents Rajagun. And Pralamba is very interesting because he looked like a devotee. He looked like a devotee. And the cowherd boys and even Balaram couldn't tell that he was actually a demon. So we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves if sometimes we misconstrue somebody's motives. But Balaram, when he's being carried by Pralambasura, because Pralambasura was in Krishna's group and so he lost the game, Balaram gradually gets so heavy that Pralambasura can't carry him, and Pralambasura couldn't use any energy to maintain his cowherd boy form. So then Balaram's looking and he says, how is it this carrier has changed in every way? And he knocks him out and kills him with his fist. One time Krishna was deep in the coils of the Kaliya serpent for hours, and the residents of Vrindavan were almost dying. Sanatana Goswami explains that Balaram said, "Oh Krishna, Krishna, these people are not your associates in Vaikuntha. They are not your monkey associates. They're not the Yadavas. They are the people of Raja. You are their only life and soul. They are dying now. Lord, I have no power to save them. They are now lifeless, merciful Krishna, only friend of the people of Raja. Please give up this pastime, or your gentle heart will become filled with grief." And this way, Balaram convinced Krishna to get out of Kaliya's coils and fight with him. So one time when both Krishna and Balaram were dancing with the gopis, Sankachuta came. And he started taking the gopis away. He began carrying them off toward the north. So Govinda chased the demon wherever he went, eager to take his jewel. Meanwhile, Balaram stayed with the women to protect them. Krishna overtook Sankachuta from a great distance. With his fist, he removed the demon's head along with the jewel. Having killed the demon and taken away his jewel, Krishna gave it to his brother Balaram, as all the gopis watch. So the purport is that various gopis perhaps thought that Govinda would give the jewel to one of them. So to prevent rivalry between them, Krishna gave the jewel to Balaram. That's from 10:34:20-32. Now we know that Krishna has his own Balaram has his own gopis. Does anyone know the name of Balaram's chief gopi? It's only mentioned once. It is Purnananda. So Purnananda is Balaram's chief gopis. That's mentioned in the Gauragana Deepika 155. And Lord Balaram was enjoying so nicely with the gopis by the rank of the Yamuna. The garden was bathed by the rays of the moon and caressed by breezes, carrying the fragrance of night-blooming lotuses. And while they were dancing, Lord Balaram wanted the Yamuna to come close so they could have pastimes with her. But she didn't come thinking, oh, Balaram has been drinking Varuni. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And so Lord Balaram threatened her with his plow and started to drag the Yamuna. Looking at Balaram's pastimes now in Mathura.
Why are you leaving Vrindavan? Why are you leaving Vrindavan?
So we know Akrura took Krishna and Balaram away from Vrindavan. And there they stopped at the Yamuna river for Akrura to take bath and chant his Gayatri. And as he was immersing himself in the water, he suddenly saw Balaram and Krishna. There he saw Anantasesh, the lord of the serpents, receiving praise from the Siddhas, Charanas, Gandharvas, and demons, who all had their heads bowed. The personality of Godhead whom Akrura saw had thousands of heads, thousands of hoods, and thousands of helmets. His blue garment and his fair complexion, as white as the filaments of a lotus, made him appear like the white Kailas mountain with its many peaks. So Krishna and Balaram, of course, went to Mathura with the main motive of killing Kamsa, who had been persecuting the devotees. Sometimes Krishna allows the demons to have power for some time, but he always finishes them in the end. And after Krishna killed Kamsa and Balaram killed Kamsa's brothers, then they went to study at the request of their parents with Sandipani Muni. Sandipani Muni taught them the entire Vedas, along with the 6 corollaries and the Upanishad. That's in Bhagavatam 10:45-33. He also taught them all the 64 arts, which Prabhupada lists in Krishna book. So many times in ISKCON, people will argue, ours is the only bona fide Gurukula, or this is... I said, if you really want to have a Vedic Gurukula, you're going to have to teach the 64 arts, which would mean you'd have to teach them how to play musical instruments underwater and dye hair and things like that. So I think we're satisfied that if we have a house of Srila Prabhupada, the bona fide Guru, that we can say it is a Gurukula. Of course, there in Mathura, Krishna and Balaram, also at the request of Devaki, who heard that they had returned the dead son of Sandipani Muni, they also returned Devaki's 6 sons. And Balaram also has pastimes in Dwarka, where again he shines as the manifestation of the beauty of the Lord.
You opened my eyes to wonders new. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you.
There in Dwarka, as ordered by Lord Brahma, Kukundi, Raivata, the opulent ruler of Ananta, gave Lord Balaram his daughter Raivati, or Revati, in marriage. And while in Dwarka, Krishna and Balaram had to deal with so many demons like Jarasandha, who attacked 17 times. And on the 18th time, Krishna and Balaram ran away, ran up a mountain, and without Jarasandha seeing, jumped off the mountain. Of course, Krishna also got married, and his first wife was Rukmini. But her brother Rukmi was very ego-invested in Rukmini marrying Shishupal, so he followed them out of the city, and he tried to kill Krishna. Krishna was going to kill Shishupal, but Lord Balaram convinced him not to. In Bhagavatam 10:54-39, he said, a relative should not be killed, even if his wrongdoing warrants capital punishment. Rather, he should be thrown out of the family. Since he's been already killed by his own sin, why kill him again? And then Balaram said to Rukmini, you know, Kshatriyas even have to kill family members who are evil. And then he talked to her about how you're not this body. Balaram said to Rukmini, your attitude is unfair, for like an ignorant person, you wish good for those who are inimical to all living beings and who have done evil to true well-wishers. With transcendental knowledge, dispel this grief that is weakening and confounding your mind. Please resume your natural mood, O princess of the pristine smile. One time when Arjuna was traveling around, he fell in love with Subhadra. And he decided that he was going to use some subterfuge to take her because Balaram had promised her to Duryodhana. So he dressed as a sannyasi and kidnapped Subhadra. Balaram had not recognized that he was Arjuna, although Krishna had recognized him. And Balaram had awarded him with all hospitality. But when Arjuna actually kidnapped Subhadra, Balaram was very angry and ready even to kill him. And then Krishna had to pacify him. How interesting that Krishna and Balaram, again, have different opinions about things. I think even for ourselves, we have some idea of this. Do you ever argue with yourself? Anyone here ever argue with yourself? I do. I'll say, okay, Urmila, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know if that's a good idea. But really, that might not work out. But imagine if you had these expansions of yourself you could discuss things with. We should kill Arjuna for kidnapping Subhadra. No, Subhadra was actually in love with him and she wanted to marry him. She even drove the chariot. And now we're going to turn to the story of Dvidvida. So Srila Jiva Goswami points out some interesting facts about the ape Dvidvida. He says, although Dvidvida was an associate of Lord Ramachandra, he became corrupted by bad association with the demon Naraka, as stated here, Narakasya Saka. By the way, Naraka is the child of Varaha and Bhumi. I really liked that part of the movie. Wasn't that cool? Bhumi and Varaha? I thought that was the coolest part of the whole movie. Srila Jiva Goswami says this bad association was the reaction for an offense. So this is also very interesting. When we commit an offense against devotees, part of our reaction may be that we end up making friends with bad association. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that this bad association was a reaction to an offense that Dvidvida had committed when, being proud of his strength, he disrespected Lord Ramachandra's brother Lakshman, who of course is also Lord Balaram. Those who worship Lord Ramachandra sometimes chant hymns addressed to Mainda and Dvidvida, who are attendant deities of the Lord. And Jiva Goswami explains, the Mainda and Dvidvida mentioned in this verse are empowered expansions of the deities, who are residents of Lord Ramachandra's Vaikuntha domain. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Lord arranged the degradation of Dvidvida and Mainda to show the evil of bad association that results from offending great personalities. Thus, the Thakur compares their fall to Jai and Vijay.
You've been living in the darkness. Pretty soon you're gonna pay.
And pretty soon Dvidvida ended up to pay for slipping into darkness of his bad association. So Balaram was enjoying with so many beautiful girls, and they were laughing and joking and dancing, and Dvidvida had already been harassing a lot of the neighboring kingdoms, stealing, raping, destroying, burning. And he heard this nice singing and went there attracted by Balaram and the girls. He started showing his teeth, he started showing his rear end, and the girls responded with just simply laughing. But then Dvidvida started attacking Balaram with stones, with tree trunks, and finally with his fists. The whole area became treeless, and finally Balaram killed him with his fists. At one point, Samba went and he kidnapped Lakshmana, the daughter of Duryodhana, during her Swayamvara, at which point the Kurus arrested him. When this news came to the Yadavas, Lord Balaram went to Hastinapur to try to make peace. But they simply disrespected Krishna to Balaram. So Balaram says, this is from Bhagavatam 10:68, 39 to 41. Just see how these puffed up crews are intoxicated with their so-called power, like ordinary drunken men. What actual ruler with the power to command would tolerate their foolish, nasty words? Today I shall rid the earth of the Kauravas, declared the furious Balaram. Thus he took his plow weapon and rose up as if to set the three worlds ablaze. The Lord angrily dug up Hastinapur with the tip of his plow and began to drag it, wanting to throw all of Hastinapur into the Ganges. Of course, at that point, the crews decided that they should come out and surrender to Lord Balaram, and they brought out Lakshmana and Samba with all pomp. Satyajit had been killed by Satyadanva for his jewel. And when Satyadanva was running away, Krishna and Balaram followed them and killed Satyadanva. At that time, they were all the way on the outskirts of Mithila. And since the king of Mithila was a dear friend of Balaram's, the Lord decided to enter the city and spend some time there. The Almighty Lord Balaram stayed in Mithila for several years, honored by his affectionate devotee. During that time, what happened? Well, they got back Krishna took the Shamantaka jewel back to Dwarka, and Balaram stayed in Mithila. And while he was there for several years, what happened? Not yet. No, not, well, yes, he had to come back for Shalva. Duryodhana came and learned club fighting from Balaram during this time. So we know that Balaram and Krishna went to see their relatives during Kurukshetra, which is also when Balaram again saw the inhabitants of Vrindavan. At the marriage of Krishna's grandson with Rukmi's granddaughter, Rukmi decided to ask Balaram to play chess in order to humiliate him. Yes. And Rukmi kept winning, but then Balaram won. And when Balaram won, Rukmi said, "You've cheated." And even a voice from the sky came and said, "Balaram has won." But Rukmi kept insisting. The demons keep insisting even when they're pushed to see the truth. And finally, Balaram just hit him on the head and killed him. Prabhupada said such things were not uncommon in Kshatriya marriages. But this is one aspect of Varnashram we should definitely not practice at the present time. As far as the fighting with Shalva, that was a great battle. Oh no, this is Manasura. This is a fighting with Manasura. And we have the demigods are helping Manasura. At that time, Lord Balaram fought with Kupanda and Kumbhakarna. Lord Balaram went to see the sages at Namasharanya, but the only one who didn't respect him was Romaharshan Sutta. He thought, because I'm sitting on the Vyasasan, I don't have to show anyone any respect. So Lord Balaram killed him with a blade of grass. But the Brahmanas there said, you need to set an example that a Kshatriya shouldn't be killing a Brahmana, it's not proper, and he's on the Vyasasan. You should do some penance. Balaram said, what penance should I do? They said, well, this Balvala is really disturbing our sacrifice. You should kill him. So then Balaram called for his weapons that appeared before him, and thus summons with the tip of his plow, Balaram caught hold of the demon Valvala, and with his klug, he struck that harasser of Brahmanas on the head. He resembled a mountain struck by a lightning bolt. Balaram then took Vanaprastha. He retired from fighting, and he went to visit the holy places. He came to Prayag, the ashram of Pulahamuni, and he went to the mouth of the Ganga. He met Lord Parasuram, bathed in the branches of the Godavari River. He met Kartikeya, gave 10,000 cows in charity, went to Sri Rangam and Tirupati. He saw Durga at the southernmost point of India, and he saw Agastya Muni deep in meditation. He went to Falguna Tirtha, where he gave away 10,000 cows, and he entered the Dandaka forest. At that time he heard about the fighting going on at the Battle of Kurukshetra. He concluded that the earth was relieved of her burden. When he went to see, he saw that Duryodhana and Bhima were fighting with clubs. He tried to stop them. Everyone else was silent. And the Lord said, Duryodhana, Bhima, listen, you warriors are equal. Bhima is stronger and Duryodhana has more skill. Please stop this fighting. But they wouldn't listen to him because they were doing anusmaram of all the insults and all of the fights that had happened over the years. Instead of mam anusmaram yujitcha, as Krishna says, think of me while you fight. Anu means to follow. So anusmaram means you're thinking over and over again. So instead of thinking over and over again about Krishna, they thought over and over again about their insults. So Balaram decided he was going to leave. He went to Dwarka, where he was greeted by Ugrasena and other relatives. He returned to Naimisharanya, where the sages engaged him in performing various types of sacrifice. Lord Balaram bestowed upon the sages pure spiritual knowledge, by which they could see the whole universe within him and also see that he was pervading everything. Then, with his wife, he did the Abhabrita bath, and the beautifully dressed and ornamented Balaram, encircled by his immediate family and other relatives, looked as splendid as the moon surrounded by its rays. When all the Yadavas and the other warriors died, Krishna watched Balaram sit down in meditation on the seashore. As Balaram became absorbed in trance, the many-hooded divine serpent Anantasesh came out of his mouth. Worshipped by Varuna and the other gods, the serpent went toward the ocean and vanished.
Shiva Pushi Vishade Keshava Vasanam Jaladaham Keshava Baka Shiva Pushi Vishade Keshava Vasanam Jaladaham Keshava Halahati Biti Minitaya Munabham Halahati Biti Minitaya Munabham Keshavadhita Haladhara Rupa Keshavadhita Haladhara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshava Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Thank you very much. Balaram ki! Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Without Srila Prabhupada, how would any of us know anything about Krishna and Balaram and all of his wonderful pastimes? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas. Any mistakes here are mine. Please take the good and leave aside the mistakes.
Jai, Shri Shri Radha Galanda ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Jaladham